good morning. Today we have someone on the show who can spot talent from a mile. His experience in talent acquisition and recruiting the right talent for the right at the right time for the right company has taken companies quite far. Well, let's bring on Evan today. Hi Evan, how are you doing?
Hello, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, thank you so much. How's life during the pandemic, Evan?
We're getting by. Been getting very used to my apartment and, the same four walls, but what can you do? Been going on a lot of walks with masks on, staying safe. What about you?
Yeah.
You staying safe out there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting my first vaccination shot on Friday, so I'm looking forward to that.
Ooh,
Yeah,
very
looking
exciting.
forward to that. Have you gotten your vaccination yet as of yet or no?
I was fortunate enough to get my first one. Yes, I've been volunteering at a clinic, and so I was able to get one of the leftovers that they had. So
Well, I'm
next
happy
one
to hear
is
that.
2 weeks away. Yeah, no, it's exciting. The arm was
Yeah,
sore a little bit, but that's nothing compared to once you
yeah,
get
on
out
the
of it.
journey of recovery, finally. I mean, yeah, let's hope that things actually eventually go back to normal. People are saying that this is the normal. Let's see how things actually work out eventually.
Yeah, slow and steady, right? We're,
Slow
we're
and
on the
steady.
up and up, I'm sure.
Exactly. So, Evan, can you tell us about where you work, what your position is currently?
Yeah, so currently I work at a Boston-based startup called Snyk, spelled SNYK. I am currently a senior recruiter
Okay, I used to think of that as Snyk. I'm glad I didn't actually
there.
introduce the company because that would have been a bit embarrassing, but thank you for actually saying the name properly.
Oh
So
no,
how's
it's fine. I thought it was like I wasn't sure how to pronounce it when I was interviewing. I had to like look it up on a YouTube video, I think, or something like that.
Oh,
Like I
oh,
had
there's
to
actually a pronunciation for that on YouTube. Okay, I'll
well,
check that
like
out as well.
I don't know if it's official, but like I saw a talk from the co-founder. And
Mhm.
like when he was introducing the company, I was like, well, if the co-founder pronounces it as Sneak, I think that's probably safe.
I think so. I
Safe
think
to
that would
say.
probably be a safe option. So
Exactly.
how
Yeah.
how has your experience been as recruiting with the pandemic and everything? How has your experience been?
Recruiting since the pandemic has been very interesting, actually. I think if anything, so once COVID hit, you had to deal with the obvious fact of like most companies in the US weren't hiring, right? Because it's like people were running out of money. So the last thing you want to do is bring on new people. But once that stabilized, COVID actually brought a few surprisingly like good things for like recruiting and interviewing, right? Because like for example, um, like video interviews became a lot more prevalent as opposed to having to fly people all across the country to come in to the office for a day to interview with everyone. And also, I think companies overall have gotten a lot more open to remote working, which means like if you can hire anyone to work for a job anywhere in the country, it makes it a lot easier to find the right talent, because you're not restricted to people in a specific location. So it's been interesting, but I will say I do miss the office. That's for sure. I'm definitely an office goer at heart, but it's nice to be at a company that also values remote work and an office life as well.
That's true. I mean, finding the right balance is very important, and I guess your company is doing a good job because you do enjoy the office life, but then you're at home enjoying your like flexibility, your own flexible routine. So I think, I mean, things are working out well for you. I'm happy to hear
Yeah.
that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, it's very grateful for that. It's been a good go so far.
Yeah. So the company is definitely hiring. So as in like that's good to hear. So as in like you've been a recruiter for quite a while. What is something according to your opinion or perspective that is something that's very important for people that are looking for jobs specifically in the tech industry, for example?
I it's such a loaded question because there's a lot, right? Like, and I don't want to sound like one of those preachy people. That's like this one tip will help you find your
Yeah.
dream job. I think one of the things is I will say this. I think I think people like it helps to take more time to learn about the job market and the career that you're choosing, right? A lot of that starts with people trying to get their first job out of college, but also breaks into a lot of different parts. Like if someone's trying to make a career switch, if they went back and got a master's, or if they're just trying to get into a different industry or the same job that they have been, right? Like, because you do hear about a lot of people where they're like, I've applied to like 500 different jobs or something like that. And I always ask myself, it's like, okay, what jobs are they applying to? And what does their resume look like? Not in a mean way, right? But it's like you need to think about what you bring to the table, because I think a lot of people, they'll look at a job description online and they'll say, I check off so many of those boxes, I should be a perfect fit. And it's like, you might on paper be a good fit, but there's also probably 100 other people with similar experience that are also applying. So it's not about, am I a good fit, yes or no. It's like, am I the best person for the job? Which I know sounds a little dire, but it's really not, because like
How do you be the best person though is the
the secret
question.
is, you don't be the best person. You just be the person at the right time. Um, because you don't have to think about it in
Okay.
terms of how do I get hired. You need to think about it in terms of how do I present myself in a way that will get me that first interview. And then once I get that first interview, how do I win over
Okay.
everyone from that point on and show that I truly have the skills and the talent
Hmm.
to go from there. You
Hmm.
know, so if you break it out in
Of
terms of
course.
those
Okay.
chunks, obviously if you're not qualified for a job,
Uh-huh.
the company will find out eventually, right? If you don't have the skills.
Yeah.
But
That's very true.
all you need to worry about is how to get that first call and then how to go from there. But like, I think being self-aware in terms of what type of candidate you are, if you have the traditional skills for a job
Yeah.
or if you're non-traditional, right? Like if you're someone that's trying to break into that space, like I think
Yeah.
having and the knowledge of that helps, and it goes a long way, and also saves some heartbreak too. I think,
Mhm.
for people that are searching for jobs.
Okay, that's true. Yeah, I think this just reminds me of this case. I remember there was this kid who applied for colleges and he
Mm.
stated himself as a national swimmer. And when he actually did go, as in like when he went into college and everything, it turned out that he was allergic to
Oh,
water.
so he just straight up
So that was a lie.
yeah.
That turned out to be a
That's
lie,
not
and
even
they
an
didn't find
embellishment.
out.
That's just, it's a
Exactly.
complete,
So I mean,
But hey, if he got there, I guess, cheers.
exactly. But then, I mean, they found out. So is it, as in like, was it worth it? Because then again, as in like, you don't want to present yourself for something
Right.
which you wouldn't be able to stand up to. Either you learn, but then as in like, or either you actually turn out to be allergic to water, which was the case in this
Exactly.
position. You wouldn't want
Exactly.
to be in
Yeah.
that
So
case, would
it's
you?
it's it's definitely a balancing act there.
Yeah,
But hopefully that helps, for anyone out there
yeah,
looking.
that's
But
very true.
I also think that it's a combination of a number of different things. Another thing that I'll mention too, I know that I tend to ramble here, so apologies. Another thing that I'll I always
No
like,
worries.
I think you'd be surprised how little research people do on companies. Um, and I've worked at large tech companies and small tech companies. So obviously at large tech companies, it's usually companies that everyone's heard of, so you don't have to worry about doing research on it necessarily. But then with a lot of these startups or these smaller tech companies, um, you might think that you have an idea of the company, but then there could be someone else that applied that has the same type of background as you and the same skills, but they did twice as much research and so they're twice as prepared. Like, I think that some people underrate that aspect of it, especially with earlier in career jobs, where you don't need to have this incredibly long or rich resume of years and years and years of experience. So it's like, it's all those little things that help to make like the
Hmm.
aggregate that much better.
That's very true. But just a question regarding that. So, how do you think you present yourself as like knowing the company on a very deep level when you actually, for example, if you're applying, like if you just have to submit your resume, how do you show that you have the skills, how whether you're the best candidate for that specific role and you've done
Yeah,
your research
so
regarding
it's a
the
great
company?
question. And there's a number of different ways to go about it. One thing that I always recommend to people is honesty, right? Like, be honest about how much research you did and what your perception of things is. Because if someone tells me, they're
Hmm.
like, hey, I listened to a podcast that the founder had on like NPR, or I listened, or like read this
Okay.
article about it. I looked at your site, I looked at a blog post about it. Like, qualifying what research you've done, and then from there giving your perception. So if someone's like, oh, I read some blog posts and looked around and read up on it with some articles, and this is my understanding of what the company does, but correct me if I'm wrong. Usually when people take that approach, I'm like, okay, no, so clearly they put in some work, but they're also acknowledging that they don't know everything, right? And they're looking to learn. And that's also fine too. Like, I
As
love
much,
people
yeah.
that are looking to learn as well. But it's usually the
Yeah.
people.
Okay. That
Oh,
makes sense.
sorry.
I think
I was
that,
just gonna say,
sorry, go
the
ahead.
one thing I'll say to not
Go
do
ahead,
is
go
when
ahead.
people apply and they're like, "Oh yeah, it seemed like an interesting company. I don't know that much about it. I was hoping you could tell me." I was like, nah, dude, that's not how this. That's not my job. I'm the recruiter. Like, you're supposed to tell me what you
Yeah.
know, right? So, like, I think some people fall into that trap a little bit. So I'd say
Yeah.
avoid that.
Okay, that makes sense because usually I think some people usually think that, oh, as in like that just shows that you're interested in the company, but then again, that actually shows a lack of interest that you don't have time enough yourself to actually do research on the company, and that actually turns out to be
Mm,
a negative point on the aspect of the
exactly.
candidate that's applying for the job.
Yeah.
So definitely, I
And
can
yeah,
see
I can
that.
definitely see
I
where
can
people are
definitely
coming
see
from,
that.
where they'd assume that, but it's like you can be interested and also put in some research too, right? There's that gray area, there's that balance.
Yeah, that's very true. Well, Evan, thank you so much. Our 10 minutes are up for the show. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure learning from you and your experience. And this is your
Yeah.
host, Manal Bukhari, signing off today. Thank you.